Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in again. This is Johnny Farias, and today we have a very special program. I'm here with Dr. Glenda Perez and Marivi Betancourt, and we're going to be talking about a program that they founded themselves called the Miami-Dade Response Initiative. And I mean, well, let me explain. Let them explain to you more about what it is. Marivi, thank you for coming out, and Dr. Perez.
Thank you for having
We
me.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's tell the audience a little bit about what the program is and why and how you got it started.
Absolutely. So first and foremost, we're nurses. We live in this community. We grew up here. We raise our families here. And as nurses, we started to see the trends when it came to the issue of sexual assault, human trafficking, of which we are a major hub nationally, and domestic violence. And so as we dug a little deeper, we started to realize services in our county, unfortunately, are very fragmented, and survivors don't always have access to the services that are supposed to be available to them in a consistent way. So we decided to come together and figure out, what are the needs in our community? Which of these gaps can we bridge in a meaningful way? How can we as nurses support survivors within our community? And so we pursued forensic nursing. We are specialty nurses. We are sexual assault nurse examiners, which is referred to as a SANE. And we provide forensic medical exams for survivors of sexual assault and human trafficking and domestic violence. So coming together and realizing we don't really have consistency in our resources is what drove the initiative coming together. We want to make sure that our community has a program in place that will transcend even us, that's going to be reliable, that survivors can count on to be there. They pick up the phone, they could call. We have a 24/7 hotline that's available weekends, nights, outside of bankers' hours, and they have access to a real life nurse, forensic nurse, that can conduct an exam, answer questions, provide resources. And we found that was the missing link.
Okay. Marivi, how did you get into?
Well, as you know, I've been very involved with, the aspect of domestic violence. And as a nurse, I found that there was always like that gap, and the gap was in the medical universe. We have some advocacy and we have programs that are geared towards, your long term. But during your short term, you need someone that you can respond to. You need someone that can collect evidence. You need someone that can do that bridge, because not everybody, we say this always, when you type online, I've been raped in Miami-Dade County, what do? The first thing that pops up is call the police. Not every victim wants to or can call the police.
Right.
Okay, you want people that are, we're the number one trusted profession because we're here to take care of the victim. And that's what we see you as. We see you as a victim, we see you as a patient, we see you as somebody that we're going to take care of. You know that with a nurse, we're going to take all of the evidence. We're going to make sure that you have follow-up. So we're taking care of primarily the body first and the victim first. We're not worried about, the legality of it, of what's the case or not. We work on what we're seeing, what's presenting, and how we can take care of that victim or that person that has come to us for assistance.
Okay. Now, I Googled, like you said, actually, and I did get a couple of the hits. There's a sexual assault hotline. I didn't call it, obviously, but I Googled a couple of things. Now, if someone was to call that number and whatever happens there, how is that different than what you're providing?
Which number?
The sexual assault hotline.
What's the number?
Oh, I don't know. I just Googled it and I saw it. Yeah, there's a variety.
You have national level hotlines that have staff operating in different capacities. Sometimes they might even have AI chatbots just to refer people to local resources.
Okay.
You have a local level, so the state attorney's office may have some accessible to human trafficking specifically and DV or domestic violence. But you might find that they may not be 24/7, right? You may not always get a real person on the other end.
And your program has the 24/7 hour
Our program
person?
does, because we are
a real person, not
manned
press one.
Correct.
Press
for
one.
this or press
Yes.
two.
A sexual assault nurse examiner will be there to answer questions, or we can be actually at a site within the county within 60 minutes. That's our protocol.
Okay. People always call me up to ask me where my next show is and stuff like that. And I had a good friend of mine, which I didn't know that happened to her. She told me, and I told her, she said, Johnny, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? She goes, something happened to me a while back, and I called all those places and I looked for resources. And she said, I felt even more defeated afterwards. And that kind of hit me out like, I mean, after something like that, to feel even more defeated, that's incredible. And so I said, you know what? I said, when you see the show, I'm gonna ask that question for you on your behalf, and let's see what the answers are. So, what are the answers? How can that happen? And that won't happen with your program, correct?
No.
Someone will always be there.
And we've been there. Again, we're nurses. We take care of these people, right? Whether it's men or women, we see them come in through the doors, and we see that defeated look on their face when they do try to reach out and say something and get help, and then they're met with silence on the other end. And that's partially, I think, what motivates us is we're tired of seeing the same patterns repeat themselves in our community, and people go without getting the justice they deserve, go without getting the resources that they're entitled to.
Right.
So for us, it's very, very important to make sure that there is somebody on the other end, that's somebody that can respond, that can be hands-on. It's nice to give somebody a piece of paper with phone numbers, but if those numbers don't work,
Right.
that person is not going to go out of their way to call anybody else, because what are they hearing, right? Oh, nobody cares. It's not that important, right? What happened to me is not that important.
This is not calling AT&T where you wait on the line for 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes, or dial 2 and we'll call you back. These are people that have taken that extra step. You're looking for assistance. You don't want someone that doesn't answer the phone. Oh, leave a message and we'll call you back during the weekdays. And the whole thing is that it has to be a coordinated effort, because the police can be doing one thing, the state attorney's office can be doing, and you have different groups. In nursing, in the medical field, you have every morning you start off with a tabletop where you have your medical doctors, you have your bed control, you have people in a hospital organization that are working together. So we found that some of these groups work in silos. You have a whole venue of people that are called advocates, that in the medical field, in the nursing world, I had never heard of that before. And advocates are somebody that actually is like a brooch that can work with, your state attorney's office and work at your police department. Okay, these are people that can help you with services like, victims compensation, follow up, that they go, with you when you can go to the state attorney's office when your case comes up. I didn't know about this.
No. So someone calls you for resources and help. Are you required to notify the police, or that's
no? And that's a great question.
That is a wonderful question. We found that people do not know, and the people that are in the know should not know. You have two sources. You can be reporting or you can be non-reporting. So it means that your victim doesn't have to decide, like, today, am I ready to press charges? Am I ready? No, we're going to collect the evidence. We tell you, maybe we collect the evidence today, and 3, 4, 6 months online, maybe that the evidence from the building with the cameras may not be available, but your evidence, what I've collected from you, the exam that we've done, the forensics that we've done, that is going to be available for you.
And it's so important, the climate we live in right now in our community, for people to understand our services are available to you regardless of status, regardless of ability to pay. Our services are completely free. You don't have to report to police if you don't want to.
Right.
We will collect your evidence, take care of you, provide you with the medications. A lot of the concern after someone has been assaulted in this way is pregnancy, sexually transmitted infections, and we do provide coverage for all of that.
Okay.
And we're number one for AIDS in the United States of America.
We're number one for all the horrible things in Miami-Dade County, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I recently, well, not recently, but I also know that we're number one in trafficking too.
We're number 3,
very high up there.
But we're number 3, but we actually believe that the data is not completely correct, because you still have these pockets of groups that are not reporting. And so the evidence shows that we're 60% under whatever is reported. And we know that. Now that Glenda and I have gone through the trauma, we realize not everybody's collecting. Not even all the hospitals are collecting. So if you go to a hospital and they are not collecting the evidence, and this is a nationwide problem, by the way, guess what happens? I'm sorry, Johnny, you have to get in your vehicle and drive to somewhere that does. And it overburdens situations and places like Roxy Bolton that do these tests, because you have them, you have one other provider that does it, but not all providers.
Right.
I remember in many of these places, in many places across the country, you're also sharing staff that works in the ER. And I don't know when the last time anybody's been to the ER, but the ER is not a place that has time to pull aside to do a 4 or 6 hour test.
Which these exams are
Right.
lengthy.
No, and I can imagine too the courage it takes to call already.
Absolutely.
You know, so when you go there and it's just, you know, you got to go here, you got to go there. Now you're discouraged and then you're not going to want to do it. And then, you know, the perpetrators slip through the cracks because of that. You know, so it's good to have, you know, once they build the courage to go to the woman, you know, to go to you, that it's done. And then, you know, it's more secure. And I can only imagine, like I said, you know, and it's great that you ladies are doing this. Before I ask you about yourselves, I want to know the funding. I mean, we know right now the county has a shortfall in funding. The state, I mean, the state don't care about what's happening, much less undocumented, much less women. They just don't care, honestly. And that's my opinion, by the way. Okay. How are you with funding? Are you afraid, you know, if something happens that comes on, you won't get funded? Are you prepared for anything like that?
So primarily at the moment, we are pretty much self-funded. Our plan, our strategic plan includes partnerships, both private and public, because we want to make sure this program transcends us. We don't want to be beholden to one institution or one source of funding and then gets canceled and there's no more program or services. So we thankfully have a lot of philanthropic support in our community and people that believe in this. It's amazing. Every day we meet somebody else that tells us their story and shares with us, you know, how they think this is a great initiative and something happened to them or someone they know. And so they are on board to support us with the initiative and support survivors. So there is a bucket to be tapped into. I think we are now at a stage of just raising awareness and going, hey, you know, there's this thing that we can bring to Miami-Dade County to make things better. Are you guys interested? And bringing all the stakeholders to the table. Funding will come, and we do this because it's the right thing to do, and it's in our
We're
hearts,
not, yes, we're nurses. Glenda works full time, and this is not something that adds to, you know, we're not looking to be, you know, the CEOs of some nonprofit that is just, you know, collecting a large. It's not. This is a nonprofit where everything is going to the victims. Every little thing that we have, we're putting it back in, so that our research is not just for our research, our data, our facts are so that we can provide evidence-based practice, and everything that we're doing is streamlined for just the victim. Okay, so this is that the evidence is behind it. We're doing what's best for the victim. Anything that we have, you know, goes back into this.
What if someone wanted to donate? Is there a place they could donate?
On our website, we have the availability.
What's the website?
mdsari.org. So it's mdsari.org. There's a button to donate right there. They can reach out or contact us through the website as well.
So it's mdsari.org.
Correct.
You heard everybody? mdsari.org. You know, we always need the help. This is a great cause, and we all know that. I mean, even before the program, we know that, you know, it's everything is scarce always. You know. And, you know, I mean, you hear on even the news, even minors, which I assume that you have, you know, got to take care of minors also, which is probably even more sensitive.
It is very, very, very sensitive. And that is very sensitive because when we discuss what we're doing, so, you know, right now we have a group called CPT, and they're the ones that handle victims that are 12 and under. Okay. People may be familiar with Christie's House. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Christie's House works with them, and that's that group. I just want that same energy for everybody that's 12 and over, because I want to make sure that women, your LGBTQ, your indigent, these are other pockets of people that people pay a lot of lip service to, saying we're going to help these people, we're going to do this. No, we're never going to see us paying lip service, or, you know, we're here, we're putting all of these people together. Part of our initiative is, as you may well know, I'm married to George.
Can we say what he is or no?
Yes, you can.
Okay, well, just so people know, which I was coming to next about who our young ladies are. Marivi and her family, they're all dedicated to public service. Okay, she's an emergency ER nurse.
Yeah.
Her husband, George, is a firefighter. So, I mean, you know, this is a family that is dedicated themselves and put their lives out there all the time. So, you know, I want to thank you for that, and I thank George too.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's a thankless job, and I know.
Yes.
But yeah, so continue what you were saying.
So when this first started, and when I first got involved in domestic violence, I came home and I was like, George, let me ask you. So, like, what happens when you get domestic violence? And he's like, Marivi, we always take care of these victims and we try to provide the best resources and we call the police. And I'm like, but what if they don't want to call the police? And he's like, Marivi, we call the police. And it realized at that moment that this is the go-to. This is the, you know. So I went online. I called one of my husband's coworkers, who's a good friend of mine too. And I asked Mr. Solongo, let me ask you, what do you guys do? And he's like, Marivi, we reach out to other people and this and that, but you can't force them. We don't know, you know, if it's a victim that needs assistance, we'll transport them to a hospital. They don't have that training. So I go online and I look and I say, well, me, my family, or law enforcement, we're mandatory reporters. We take domestic violence, we take human trafficking, and we take it every 2 years. Fire rescue doesn't take anything, ever. It's not mandated. Okay, so these are your first responders. Something happens, police or fire, may I help you? And I'm thinking, you know, how is this huge chasm? Because there's a huge chasm. And as you go in and you start looking and you start talking, okay, FEMA has gone to these places, and I've been on medical missions. And these are places that are war-torn or destroyed. And what starts happening? You start seeing a breakdown in culture and society. And you see human trafficking and you see domestic violence. But these people are not trained for this. You can't tell me what coercive control is. You can't tell me how, you know. So we started diving in, and, you know, we reached out to our commissioner, who reached out to our public safety officer. We pitched it to them. And this is where we're now. The steps that we're in now is that we are making those contacts, because when you talk about, and you sit at a table, when we talk about victims, some of your veterans are victims. They need to sit at the table. Your immigrant populations are victims. They need a seat at the table. You have your LGBT community, which is notorious for not reporting. Yeah. Okay, so these numbers are totally and utterly underrepresented. Okay, and if anybody's watching the news, you've seen how many women have been sexually assaulted. These people have gone back out on the street. Your domestic violence has scored to a level now that you have women that are being killed and stabbed to death, and people are watching. Yesterday, I was watching a man that kidnapped a woman in plain daylight. Okay, the violence is very bad. Okay, and if you are a victim of crime, you may not know who to report to. You may not know who to tell. You may not have somebody that can drive you to Roxy Bolton, to one of these other hospitals. You may not have that. And, you know, the overreaching arch of our program is, we can come to you. If you're law enforcement, you don't know what to do. Maybe you're law enforcement, you don't know what to do. Maybe you're the lady at some hotel and you're seeing something, you know. Well, but you know what? I got a flyer, I got a training. I know that this is going on. Maybe, and this is something that we talk about with Glenda, you're the U.S. Postal Officer, and you see, and you're dropping off mail, and there's like 50 million people living in a house, or young girls.
See it. To your point with firefighters as well, they see the mattresses on the floor. They will be welcomed in. A trafficker will let fire come into a house to patch up a victim so they can keep trafficking them. They will never allow police in the house.
Why is that?
Because they want to receive whatever first aid they need, and, you know.
But are firefighters mandatory to report something like that, or no? They're not.
They don't have mandatory training. They can do elective training if they choose to, right? But they're so overburdened as well with everything they have to do, and funding is an issue as well for their education, which we're sensitive to that plight as well. So they're not mandatory. They don't have mandatory education, and they don't have to report the majority of cases, which for us as well, we're mandatory reporters of vulnerable populations, which are your children, right, under 18, over 65, or any other kind of disability.
Yes.
But the majority of cases
children,
and the majority of the population are getting lost in the sauce, pretty much.
Wow.
It's the same with fire rescue. Those are the populations that they have to report. They have something called elderlings. Okay, so those are mandatory reporting for domestic violence if it's something like gunshot wounds, okay, things that are lethal,
right?
Okay,
other than that, they don't have to report. Well, I mean, there's a lot, I guess, that's fallen through the cracks, and I mean, it's sad. Dr. Perez, this is the first time that we meet, but we've actually had a connection before this. I found out. I said happy birthday to your grandmother without even knowing. Look at that.
Thank you for that.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I always share my story about the raft.
But did you bring the
it's,
picture?
It's a hit at parties. So I actually am part of the massive Cuban exile of 1994. My family and I came over on a little wooden boat, fleeing, Castro's Cuba. And we were fortunate enough to be picked up by Coast Guard and taken to Guantanamo. We lived there on the tarmac right at the beginning where we lived in tents. Like there were no houses back then, no plumbing. It was the Wild West. But, grateful that they didn't let us die in the middle of the ocean. So we lived there for about 6 months, went through a hurricane there. Great stuff. And then we got here. Fortunately, I think my part of why I do the things I do, I think my mother instilled in me the weight of getting an education, the importance of using the opportunities we're given to do something more and to do for others, right, outside of ourselves and our circle of trust. And so to me, it has always been very important to honor the sacrifice of others, to honor those people that didn't make it, right? To honor the people that couldn't leave. And so for me, it has been very important to pursue education, to be in a caring profession, giving back to our community. And so I'm passionate. I have 2 girls, 15 and 11, and I worry about their safety on the streets of Miami-Dade. When we start to peel back those layers, we see we have a problem, and it's something that needs a meaningful solution, a very real, practical way.
Wow.
I told you the raft is a popular story.
It is.
And I'll be sending you the picture later on.
There's a picture.
We'll put the pictures on. Okay. I mean, to the audience, there's never enough resources, especially when it comes to something like this. I have, 2 daughters. I have a granddaughter. 2 sisters, a mother. I mean, we all have somebody that can get touched. And we probably know somebody that has been, involved in such drastic things. So yeah, I'm grateful that we have ladies like you that want to give back, that are in something that's very serious and very dire need. I think maybe the administration that we have now would pay attention more to what's going on like this than other things. I think we'd be a lot better country. That's a whole other conversation and another show. But yes,
we'll catch you up. We have some support from our one of our elected officials, and we're unrolling that and seeing exactly where it goes. But he's been very, very supportive, and he's made a lot of the contacts for us, and we're looking to see. This is really this is a bare bones, nonprofit. This is where all of it is going to our victims. Any of the education that we can provide to people that cannot, don't have the means to go to some place and Michigan or wherever they're doing the training, we want to do the training here. We want to keep our data here. We want to make sure that we're focused, we're laser focused.
Right.
Okay, because crime is 20% down from what? Like, what number are we going at? I'm looking at crime mapping, and it's and our society has become extremely violent.
You should mention crime mapping. Explain what crime mapping is to the people that don't know what that is.
Crime mapping is an app that you can put up, crimemapping.com, I think it is. And you can put in, and you can look to see where your address is, and what will pop up is little icons, and the little icons are like a dollar sign or like a fist
for robbery or assault.
Yeah, robbery or assault. And you go down to sexual assault, and when you put sexual assault, because that's, so you're putting sexual assault, and then a lot of other ones pop up, and then you go over to some areas and it's totally blank, and you're like, oh, okay, what's going on here? This is a safe area. Not everybody's reporting.
Right.
And a lot of these crimes, they're hidden in plain sight. That's the phrase that is used often, but it's true because it's happening in front of our eyes. We know where the people are that are vulnerable and are being taken advantage of in our community the most, right? But we might not classify it as such. We may not want to be involved. One of the things with trafficking is that victims don't even recognize themselves as victims. So how do you rescue somebody that doesn't see themselves as a victim, right? Most of the time, they're kind of in the circumstances that they are because X, Y, or Z.
Right.
But when you start to look behind, you realize this is a person that is under coercive control. This is a person who is being made to do things they don't want to do, and they don't get any financial benefit. This might be a person that is underage. Until recently, we considered child prostitution, right, as a thing, and that does not exist. Children cannot consent to an appendectomy. Children cannot consent to sex for money. And so changing the paradigm and the way in which we see these things and the terminology that we use even is going to make a big difference in our community. We just have to, I say all the time, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then you start to question everything. Somebody's standing in the corner and you're like, oh, what's going on there, right? You become more aware of what's going on because it's truly, it is in plain sight in Miami-Dade County. It's everywhere.
And I called Glenda as soon as it happened. Where you have the Broward case. You have the Broward case where a woman was going literally to the sheriff's office, was begging for assistance, doing videos, everything. She was saying these things.
I know what case you're talking about.
Okay, and she was still killed. And not only was she killed, but the gentleman that her father and the gentleman that opened up the door,
the neighbor.
And it was so concerning because it all goes back to something that we learned in nursing. Why do people not get involved? It goes back to the New York case, Kitty Genovese. 36 people heard her crying and screaming, and they stabbed her to death, and no one did anything. And that's what happens. People become scared to then assist.
Mm-hmm. What is the number to the hotline?
1-844-305-SANE.
305
SANE.
SANE.
That's
okay. So for all the viewers didn't get that, the hotline number is 1-844-305-SANE. SANE. As we come into a close, I want to just mention that these things are terrible when it happens to people, and it takes a lot of courage afterwards, the recovery, just to go to somebody. But I'm asking everyone, please, if you know someone, if it's happened to you, reach out. There's the 1-844 number that I just mentioned. Reach out to somebody. Because when people don't, okay, the perpetrators get away. And that's the last thing we want for to happen to somebody else. And look, we all see TV shows, Law and Order, all these things. We see things on TV all the time. We hear stories all the time. But we got to stop that. So this way we stop hearing less stories. So we stop seeing this on TV shows.
And you may want to call to collaborate with us. You might want to call because you know someone and you just want to get some advice, or you want to know who in Miami-Dade Police, what is our special victims unit? What is, if I'm in Homestead, who we can direct you there.
And on your website, is there a place for people that might want to volunteer?
We are putting out our volunteers.
Okay, there you
our
go.
volunteers
So,
very specific because we have confidentiality. We have all of these different
okay,
things.
yeah.
So there will be some
Background
training.
checks,
There will be
right.
involved, but we will,
Okay.
we will for sure.
We
And
will
on
be
Instagram-
offering also training.
Right.
Coming up.
Okay, and on Instagram, follow at Miami-Dade S.A.R.I. So everybody's out there. You're always on your phone anyway, so pull it out now. At Miami-Dade S.A.R.I. I'm already following them. But yes,
Thank you.
Thank
ladies, I want to thank you for taking your time out. As nurses, I know you guys are always busy and everything. So please, thank you for coming out. Thank you for giving out the information. And I know it's a thankless job, and thankfully we have people like you that are brave enough to go out there and do something. Because I know not even just doing it, just knowing about this kind of stuff, I know it's got to be, especially with two girls. Because I feel for my girls all the time, and they're already older, and I still, when they go up, I'm like, call me, where you at?
Right.
So I understand.
There's a lot of nuances, and there's a lot of other things that we cover more than an hour show. So we're just breaking this so that people know what we are and know that we're a resource. Know that whatever somebody wants to do, we will always respect their wishes. And maybe you do want to report, you don't want to report, you want to get police involved. There's a lot of information that we want to make sure that victims know.
And I want to know if it's 6 months from now, is it okay to bring you back on to see where you're at?
Yes.
How you doing?
We'll be happy to come back.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, everybody, you got it there. Don't forget at Miami-Dade S.A.R.I. They have the website. Say the website again,
mdsari.org.
There you go.
mdsari.org.
Donate, volunteer. Let's help out. Thank you again, everybody. My name is Johnny G. Farias. I'm signing out, and I will see you next time. Stay safe. See you soon.